Welcome to Preparing for a Pivot in Canvas. I'm Audrey Brickley, and I'm an instructional technology consultant in ITS Learning Technology. And I've been getting a lot of questions and hearing a lot of talk about what instructors can do now to help make the transition to remote learning a smooth one if it should become necessary. And I prepared this video series to help answer that question. This first video is very conversational, but then the following ones in the series are very nuts and bolts, like what to actually do in Canvas. And I don't make any assumptions about anyone's level of comfort or expertise with using Canvas. It starts at the beginning. But before we get into that, I'm using the word pivot in the videos, but what we're really talking about is continuity, providing that continuity for students. And when we think about what that means and how we can make the move to remote learning smooth and graceful, I think it just helps so much to think about that word continuity and how we can provide that for students and for us, and how we can minimize the disruption. And when you think about that, the thing that can provide that is Canvas. So in 2020, I think when it happened so suddenly and unexpectedly, I think we felt kind of like ships without a shore, kind of untethered. And I talked to so many instructors who were worried about their students out there. Some of them kind of disappeared, and even for the ones who were showing up, it was kind of hard to find our footing. So what I want to offer you with this video series and what Canvas offers is that shore. Canvas offers us a place, a home base, and if we start out anchored there and feel at home there, and we spend time there and we use it well and kind of nurture that space now when we don't necessarily need it, we won't have such a hard time finding our way back to each other. If we can no longer be on campus, we can provide that continuity so that coming together in Canvas after a pivot would feel almost more like a homecoming rather than a Band-Aid that we're putting over a wound. And really, it doesn't take a pandemic or inclement weather or anything like that for all of us to benefit from having this in place. And so this video series is very practical, a lot of nuts and bolts to get you in there in your online classroom, your home base for your course, how to communicate with students now in Canvas, how to set up an assignment and collect student submissions and grade them now. It's kind of like nesting. We're chipping away at setting up that home base now, so it's not just second best. So it's strong and comfy and ready for what we want to accomplish in our course, no matter what happens outside of it. And I do have some tips for you before you get started. First, know your ITC. There are instructional technology consultants across the university in each school, as well as here in ITS. We know the capabilities and features of our tools. If you want to make something happen, but you're not sure how, we understand your options and we can help you determine what will work best for you and your students. Second, you can request a Sandbox course, or what we refer to also as a development course, in Canvas from your ITC or from Six Tech. And this is a Canvas course that's separate from your live courses where you can start working right away without disrupting anything you're already doing. And then you can always copy any of those assignments or discussions or anything you set up in here to those courses. And you might not feel ready to implement everything I suggest in these videos in your live courses, but you want to do that nesting in a separate space where you can chip away at that work. That's a really smart and practical way to go about it. Third, it's okay to prioritize. I suggest in the assignments video to set up the bones of your course. And one way to prioritize is to keep a laser focus on your student learning outcomes. I think sometimes we get caught up in trying to make everything that we do in the classroom happen online, and that can get really convoluted and frustrating. Instead, look at the learning outcome. What does evidence of having that skill look like online? We can let go of some of what we do in the classroom and conceptualize online alternatives. It's okay to keep it simple. So like if you normally do an elaborate role-playing activity in the classroom, maybe a scenario-based group discussion board would be a fine alternative if the need to move online should arise. And opportunities for asynchronous learning and interaction can benefit students during complicated times. So consider your students' experience. Imagine the difference between trying to engage in a complicated activity at a specified time in Zoom in a house full of people who are also quarantining, compared with like reading through a scenario when you're able to find a moment of quiet and maybe even sleeping on it and coming back to it when you've really had a chance to digest and consider it and all that. Or if the student doesn't have reliable internet access, they can work on the assignment when they're able to, rather than having to be there at a specified time to complete a required activity. So like the pivot to online doesn't necessarily mean classroom to Zoom. It can include simple asynchronous alternatives that align with your learning outcomes. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing. These can replace part of your face time with your students, allowing you to stay connected while reducing Zoom fatigue for everyone and solving all of those other issues that I mentioned. Finally, when you watch these videos, like I said, there's a lot of how-to, a lot of nuts and bolts. I don't really recommend just like sitting here in one sitting and watching through them. I would say you might devise a plan, like I'm going to do my syllabus today and then my assignments next week. And maybe you might watch the assignments video once all the way through, to wrap your head around it, but then like open your course or your development course and be ready to pause the video and move through the steps to set it up in your course. I wouldn't sit and watch these videos today with the intent to like start working on your nesting in Canvas in October. You'll get overwhelmed today and you'll forget it all by October. So you can almost think of this video series as an asynchronous hands-on workshop that you can do on your own time in bits and pieces. It's not like a webinar that you sit and listen to for an hour and then maybe apply what you learned someday. And then I also wanted to point out that you can control the speed of the video playback in YouTube. So if I'm going too fast, you can come down here to the settings menu, look for playback speed, and adjust that to be slower if you need. So if you need to watch and listen a little bit slower or faster, if I'm going too slow and I'm driving you nuts, you can speed it up, whatever works best for you. Remember that the Keep Teaching website is here with lots of great information and resources, as well as the Help tab, which includes information about how to reach your instructional technology consultant for your schools, as well as a link to SixTech. Don't hesitate to reach out. We are always happy to help. And I hope you enjoy this video series.